It's always fun when we can talk about something. Well, it's not like this is not a heavy topic, but it's not necessarily current in the motion topics that we are normally covering on the show. Joining me, Adam Tex Davis from the podcast Slaycation. We talked to you guys a little while back. Always just fascinating and interesting to hear the adventures that you guys have had, are going on, and the stories that you have. I know we're going to cover a couple different ones here today. Adam, let's start with John Wayne Gacy. Of course, you know Gacy. If nobody knows his history, a quick backdrop for anybody playing at home: serial killer, sex offender, murdered at least 33. They think it could probably have been far more than that between 1972 and 1978. Referred to as a clown killer. So when you're flipping through Netflix and you see the big clown, that's him. When it's John Wayne Gacy, lured his victims to his home in Chicago, where he'd sexually assault and strangled them. Most of the victims buried in a crawl space beneath his house. He was arrested in 78 after police linked him to a missing teenager, leading to the discovery of his crimes. Interestingly enough, one of our main contributors on the show, Bob Mata, defense attorney, his dad was his attorney.
Oh, wow.
And the Gacy tapes, I believe the Netflix special is based on those tapes that Bob got for, I believe, his birthday from his dad one day, of all these conversations that he had with Gacy back in the day that had never been heard. But yeah, let's talk about this. You got to be, how would you describe the relationship with John?
Well, luckily it was a long distance relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. No, he was obviously incarcerated. What happened was my roommate and I were working on a movie. It was my roommate's movie, and my roommate went on to become one of the biggest directors in Hollywood. He did the movies, the Hangover movies. He did Joker, and now coming out soon, Singing Joker.
Okay.
So, Todd Phillips was my roommate, and we were working on a student film. It was Todd's student film. It was a documentary about a punk rock singer by the name of Gigi Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And Gigi Allen was the most hardcore guy in the punk scene. He wasn't like a great singer or a great musician or anything, but he was willing to be more extreme than anybody else. So he would poop on the stage, he would wipe it on his face, he would throw it at the audience, he would attack the audience, he would cut himself, he would be bleeding naked and covered in poop by the end of the
It's a lot like
show.
a Taylor Swift show. This is why everybody signs up to go see Taylor Swift, because it's this is Taylor got the act from him, I bet.
Yeah. And here's the thing, it really was an act, because like before one of the shows for the documentary, he was snarfing down X-Lax. So he, to be prepared.
Yes.
And I was just like, why don't you just have White Castle? Like, it would be so much faster.
Exactly. Why not?
But the point is, so we were doing this Gigi movie, and in an interview with one of Gigi's super fans, a guy named Unk said that Gigi was fascinated by serial killers, which of course is on brand. But they had recently gone to visit John Wayne Gacy in the Illinois State Penitentiary.
Mm-hmm.
So they took a liking to each other. Gacy was fascinated by Gigi's antics. Gigi, of course, loves Gacy. So we got the idea, why don't we try to get John Wayne Gacy to paint a portrait? Because at that point, he was doing jailhouse portraits and paintings. And why don't we get him to do a portrait of Gigi Allen that could then become the poster for the movie? Mm-hmm. So through our connection, this guy Unk and the Gigi crowd, we were able to get John Wayne Gacy a photograph of Gigi, and he also wanted a naked photo of Todd, also in lieu of payment, I guess. And we were on the rooftop of our apartment taking topless photos of Todd, hoping that would be enough to get John Wayne Gacy to paint the picture and not full naked. And it turned out to be enough. And
so John did.
Gacy, yeah, he
did send you like, we need a little more before I start making the painting here.
I thought he was going to be like, come on, guys, I'll do half a picture for that. But anyway, he said he would do it, and sure enough, he painted this portrait of Gigi Allen from a photo that we had sent. And the funny thing though is he got our phone number when they, when we gave him the picture and stuff, like he took our apartment phone number
Mhm.
and he started calling constantly. Like our phone was constantly ringing, and it was like, collect call from the Illinois Stateville Correctional Institute, and it would be John Wayne Gacy. And whether it was me or Todd or both of us, we put him on speaker. Like he just loved to talk, and everything with this guy was sexual.
Yeah.
So it was like, are you guys having orgies? What things have you done? What have you not done? Do you guys fuck each other? I mean, I don't know if I could curse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just nonstop. And it got to the point where he was calling so much, and these are collect calls. We have to pay for it.
Yes.
I was working in a bagel store. I'm a college kid working in a bagel store. I don't have, pay for John Wayne Gacy's collect calls money. So we had to literally stop taking his calls, but at the same time, we still needed him to paint the portrait. So we had to take every like third call to get him to keep working. And then finally, somebody went and smuggled the painting out of the jail, and it showed up, and we had the poster, or we had the painting that became the poster. And let me just say, it was terrible. It was the worst painting. But again, it's for this punk rock movie. It's actually, and it's signed John Wayne Gacy.
Mhm.
So yeah, it became like kind of a collector's item. We sold about 999 of them or whatever. Yeah, it became the poster for the movie. And then what happened was, he stopped calling, because at that point he was ramping up. It's like 94. It's ramping up towards the execution.
Yeah.
And also, the movie wound up doing great because Gigi Allen, the punk rocker, wound up dying
Oh wow.
of
Okay.
a heroin overdose in 93, I think. And so this became the final word on him. So this movie actually wound up getting distributed. It's called Hated, Gigi Allen and the Murder Junkies. And it became like one of the biggest like grossing student films of all time. But the point is, so yeah, Todd had moved out, I think, at that point, and it was like getting close to Christmas time, and all of a sudden I open up my mailbox, and there's an envelope from the Illinois Stateville Correctional Institute, and I'm like, oh, please don't be the topless picture of Todd being returned to me. But when I opened it up, it was an actual Christmas card from John Wayne Gacy, and it just says "Joy to the World," and then his name, John Gacy, underneath.
Is
And
is it one you take out every year to this day? Like you bring out like the sled, and you bring out like the snowman, and then it's John Wayne's card.
yes,
You're reaching down for, you must have it right there or something. Do you?
I have it. I should have been more prepared.
It's okay. If you're listening to this on the podcast right now, Adam's like scrummaging
Yeah,
around
that's
his
true.
desk.
Right. Yeah.
It's there
I,
somewhere. Yeah, you still got it.
I do have it, and it is funny because it says "Joy to the World." That this guy brought more death and awfulness to the world,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's like "Joy to the World" was his message. I mean, he didn't write it, but was ridiculous. And then like people were like, "Wait, you still have it?" And I'm like, "I can't throw it out, but I
Yeah.
know it's like an evil totem. I
Mhm.
shouldn't have it."
Yeah. So what
So
was like, what's going through your mind? I mean, you're trying to get this poster. I get it. I mean, it makes sense for that world. But when John's starting to call you regularly, what the
yeah.
hell's going through your guys' mind?
I mean, at first it was like literally sheer terror.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh my God, are we going to literally get on the phone and talk to this guy? But then it was like the first call I think we did together. So it was a little easier. But then like, yeah, the call would come in, and it's like, do I take it? Do I not? And then, sometimes I'd have friends over, and I'd be like, you're not going to believe who I'm about to be speaking to.
Hmm.
And I would put it on speaker, and they're just, mind blown. But yeah, he was so dark and disgusting. And look, I am the least squeamish guy. If you listen to Slaycation, I
Uh-huh.
make off-color jokes.
Sure.
I am not squeamish at all.
Yeah.
But this was dark for me.
Wow.
So like I don't even talk about it that much, like the stuff that he would say though.
Like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into great detail, but like what, I mean, with what you can, like what was an average were they all kind of similar in nature? Was there ever days where John was a little more, I don't know, wanting to talk about the weather or something lighter? Or was he always just pretty much, you got John on the phone and he was there for what he was there for?
You know what it was? It was he would sometimes do like a lead-in question that felt like he was setting you up for like a normal conversation.
Mhm.
Do you have any pets? No, we're just two college kids living alone. Anyway, do you ever shit on each other?
Oh God.
You know, yeah. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, he was like, "Have you ever paid anyone to take a dump on you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, does Gigi Allen count? Because he's flinging poo at his show, and some
Uh-huh.
guy, I don't know if that counts, but
So, was Gacy aware of Gigi Allen at that time? Did he know
oh,
the work and all that? Or okay, all right.
yeah, I mean, the joke was like, like he said, the quote that he said to Unc was, he goes, "I love that kid. He's got a lot of spunk, but man, he smells like shit." And it's like, yeah, this guy barely, he's wiping it all
Yeah.
over himself. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's taking the best, most thorough shower after his
Wow.
show.
So what was like how did the relationship end after the painting was done? I know you got the Christmas card. Was the Christmas card the end of everything or was there
Yeah,
anything
because
else?
that was actually a posthumous Christmas
Oh,
card. He had already been executed in the I think it was April or May of
okay.
'94, and then this was Christmas '94. So yeah, we were on his posthumous Christmas card list.
How did so he
Uh,
just like made all the cards and then like send them out at somebody sent them out for him at the end of the year?
I guess so. The jail. I don't know. He had a yeah. His things to do list. We were on it. I couldn't believe that he was using his jail time like phone call allotment. I can't imagine you could just call anytime you want, and
Yeah.
he's using it on us.
Did you
You
ever
know.
think you'd like would you ever try and get any information out of him if there was anything else or
Yeah. So that was the thing. I liken it to like, you're being interviewed by 60 Minutes.
Mhm,
You don't ask the questions, they ask you the questions. So anytime we would try to turn it around and ask him anything, he would shut it down immediately.
mhm.
And if it was like anything about what he had been accused of, we say accused, but he did it. But
Yeah.
and if we brought up anything like that, he would be like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk. That's a dark time. I don't want to talk about that." So anyway, you guys don't shower together to save water? Like that. That's where
Just
his mind
kinda
was at.
yeah, like deflecting.
Yeah.
Did I mean, I'm trying to think, did Gacy ever admit to his crimes?
No,
No,
no.
okay.
The only thing he would say is he would say, "I didn't bury them there. The only thing you can accuse me of is running a graveyard without a permit." That was his big line.
Running a graveyard without a permit. That is
Yeah,
so
I was
creepy.
running an illegal cemetery.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a college story I think most kids probably don't have.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just was glad that we were on the phone.
Yeah.
Like I can't even imagine being in the same room with this guy.
Yeah, the energy. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
dark. That would be very dark.
The one thing I will add is he would always get like pretend angry at some point during, like he would think that we were holding out on him.
Really?
That's where you could see the flash
Mhm.
of anger that probably happened. He was like this gregarious guy. He was a big, larger than life presence. He was a contractor. He worked with these kids. He was a birthday clown. He was all these things. And then you angered him, and then we heard it on the phone, like the
Yeah.
anger. You're not telling the truth. And then he would get really mad, and then he would hang up. And then he
Wow.
would call back a week later and be like, "Hey, it's John." Like
Kind
nothing
of
had happened.
kind of an insight into,
Yeah.
what how he may have been in when he was
Yeah.
free, when he was committing those crimes, just the ability to switch so quickly. That's scary.
Complete sociopath. Yeah.
Let's talk about another experience that you had here. Adam Tex Davis with us. Slaycation is the podcast. Be sure to press subscribe on that wherever you download podcasts. This is a story about your first feature film project taking
Mm.
place, and I love abandoned things. Abandoned things are my jam. This is I did not know that this hotel was abandoned. This is the hotel where RFK's assassination took place. And for whatever reason, the last like 2 weeks, YouTube has been suggesting these videos to me of,
Huh?
of the live coverage of it. I'm like, oh, fascinating, because I love watching that sort of stuff. But you had an encounter there with a female ghost. Tell me about that.
Spoiler alert. No. No, you know what it was? It was like a teen, um, it was a teen comedy
Hmm.
for the MTV, the channel.
Okay.
It was called Spring Break Lawyer,
Okay.
which I won't get into anything about the movie, but it was the very first writing job. I had gotten hired to write this thing.
Okay.
And the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles
Hmm.
was where we wound up shooting, I would say like 85% of the movie, because this hotel, like it was a gigantic hotel. It was completely abandoned and had been abandoned for years. But it was mammoth it had a giant, like the Coconut Grove was the club in the hotel. That's where they used to have the Academy Awards when they first started the Academy Awards, this
Yeah.
gigantic club, and we used it as a nightclub.
Uh-huh.
Then we used hotel rooms to serve as hotel rooms, to serve as dorm rooms. Then the basement just had all kinds of stuff. There were bars. There was like a bank with a vault. There was jail cells. They had like 3 jail cells in the basement of this hotel. So we used it when we needed a jail cell. There was a diner. There was like all kinds of stuff. So every day we would go to this hotel and we would shoot different parts of the hotel to
Mhm.
be, different parts, locations in the movie.
Yeah.
I had heard that the place was haunted. So I knew I needed to investigate. And, you know, again, it's completely abandoned. It's like the
Yeah.
Shining Hotel. It's
Yeah.
creepy as hell,
I mean,
especially at night.
who wouldn't think the place is haunted? You know, and then plus the dark history that surrounds that place like that.
Yes. I mean, some of the crew even like snuck into the kitchen and took tiles from the kitchen where like Bobby Kennedy was like
Yeah.
assassinated and stuff. But the point is, you weren't even really allowed to go walk around the place on your own. You were supposed to like be with other people, and some of the rooms had asbestos. Some of the rooms, the floor would cave in, so you couldn't have too many people in there.
Yeah.
Or if you went in, you could fall through the floor. So they were very strict about no looking around or whatever on your own. But I knew I had to at some point see if I could, you know, find this ghost or whatever. But I didn't expect to find anything.
Mhm.
So the last day of shooting, we're there. We're shooting a night shoot in the pool. So it's a big scene with all these kids in like bathing suits and bikinis and stuff. And we start shooting at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to shoot all night and end at 6 a.m. So 12-hour shoot. Midnight is when lunch is. So I decide that's when I'm going to make my move.
Mhm.
And I lie. I go up to one of the security guards who just stands in the parking lot watching our cars. I said, look, I need to go. They want me to go scout the top floor to see. We might have to shoot another scene. So they asked me, I'm the writer, to scout the top floor and see if I could find a room that would be suitable for shooting one more scene.
Mhm.
So the guy's like, yeah, sure. And it was a big American Indian guy. I forget his real name, but everybody just, of course, everybody just called him Chief.
Mhm.
So Chief and I, we get in the elevator. Everybody else is having lunch. They're all outside. We get in the elevator and he's like, oh, so you're the writer, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, have you written other things? I go, well, this is my first one that got made, but I've written other things. The elevator doors open up and I could just see right down the hallway. There's a woman at the end of the hallway about, I don't know, 40 yards away, 50 yards away, something like that. She's just standing, staring at the doorway in the corner. She's not dressed like someone of the day.
Mhm.
She's dressed with clearly like a 1920s or 30s. I thought for a second, I thought it was somebody in the art department or maybe costumes had put on a costume, but I'm like, what are they doing up here? And why are they just standing there? It was like the end of the Blair Witch, where the person is just standing there staring at the wall.
Mhm.
And I'm like, before I could say anything, Chief, he goes, hey, you're not supposed to be here. So he starts running down the hallway towards the woman. And I hear his keys jangling against his leg. And I take 2 steps out of the elevator and I'm like, well, what is going on? And all of a sudden, the woman, she's facing the wall. She turns. Now she's facing me. She continues the turn and then just floats and disappears. Like up to up to my, to the right and gone. And I'm just like, wait, what? And he keeps running. He's got his head down. He's charging. And he
Yeah.
looks up. And I know he's going to say, where'd she go?
Mhm.
And he stops. He goes, where'd she go? And I'm like, dude. Now at this point, I've slowly walked maybe halfway down the hallway. And again, it's an interior hallway. There's no windows. It's
Yeah.
only doors and the wall.
Mhm.
And the woman was completely like, there was no, like people say, oh, could you see through her? Was she translucent? No, she was completely looked like a normal, regular, living, breathing person.
Mhm.
But when they turned and then just floated away, I was like, Chief, I'm sorry, I lied to you. They said this place was haunted. I think we just saw a ghost. And he
Wow.
flips out.
Yeah.
And he grabs my hand and starts running back to the elevator. And he's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And I'm like, "I thought you guys like, I thought you might be in tune with this stuff, the spirits in the
Yeah.
spirit world. I thought that was part of it."
Yeah.
And he was just like, he threw me in the elevator. He was pissed, and he was like, "We can't tell anybody about this. Don't say a word." And I was like, "You got it." And I went down and I caught the last of lunch, and I'm literally trying to eat, and my hands are
Shaking.
shaking. And the actors are coming over to, like, it's the last night, and they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Tex," it's like, "What's up, buddy?" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't really talk right now."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, in my mind, I'm picturing like the librarian ghost in Ghostbusters or something, where it's kind
Right.
of floating and then it shifts and looks at you. But yeah, I mean, and that's a fascinating thing, because there's so many times people have ghost stories, and it's not what you expect. It's not the floating. It's just like, yeah, and at first, I'm sure you thought it was a person. Why are they up
Yeah,
here? But maybe it's someone like yourself. It's kind of exploring as well.
yeah.
After that happened, after you saw that thing just evaporate into thin air, I mean, what's your mind saying at that moment? Do you know it's a ghost? Do you know? Are you just trying to like make sense of this? Like, are you seeing things? Like, did I do something earlier? Did I take something? Did somebody slip
Right.
something in my ham sandwich? Like what's going on?
Well, the two thoughts I had, the two thoughts, like, that's when my chest just started pounding. So I was like, don't have a heart attack. But also, I was like so glad that he was there.
Hmm.
I'm so glad this was a shared experience,
Yeah.
because he saw her at the same exact time as me. And it took me by surprise that there was somebody there. Again, I was not expecting to see anything. Yeah, sure, we're going on a little ghost hunt, but
Hmm.
I expected we were going to do a lap around the
Yeah.
building, come back, go back downstairs, and it was going to be all for folly.
Sure.
I
Sure.
and when the fact that I saw somebody, then I thought like, oh, it's probably a squatter, or it might be, some kids just playing around. But
Yeah.
then when that happened, I was like, oh my God. And then I was just like, I was a little annoyed too, because like, I don't want to believe in this.
Hmm.
I consider myself a rational person. I worked on a TV show called Brain Games about how your mind works and plays tricks on you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, I'm a science guy. I don't want to be a ghost guy, but at the
Sure.
same time, I want to be the most credible ghost person.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, it happens, and that's the
It
interesting thing
happened.
about ghost stories. It's always, I mean, I mean, there's certainly we have another podcast called Real Ghost Stories Online, and it's one of the biggest. We've been doing it for 11 years, and it's very fascinating because it's mostly just normal folks just going about their
Mhm.
business, and when they don't even realize sometimes it happens until after it happened, and
Right.
even sometimes it takes longer than that to figure out what exactly had happened. Did you ever do any research or anything into the hotel more to see if others had had a similar experience to you?
Yes, I did find that somebody else had seen a woman in the building, but the way they described it, it was much more traditional ghost see-through.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, nothing that matched what I saw. And like when I tell the story to people, a lot of times they come back at me with some kind of ghost encounter of their own,
Hmm.
but it's usually like a relative, or my dog just died and then I heard barking the next night, or my grandfather died and I looked up and it was nighttime and I saw him standing at the end of my bed. Like, it's usually some kind of personal connection
Hmm.
to the person maybe being visited or whatever. I've never had anything similar like that happen. I've never, I've lost some loved ones. I would love if they came by, but they, never had anything like that. And this was just a complete, yeah, no connection at all. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe that makes it more real because I didn't conjure up a relative that I want to see or
Sure.
something. And of course, my mind is also playing a story.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, she's sad. There's something bad happened in that
Hmm.
room, and she can't get in there. And I mean, when she turned towards me, she had no expression. It was very
Yeah.
stoic,
It
and
yeah.
you know,
And a place like that, you don't know. I mean, we know obviously the major history there of Bobby Kennedy being
yeah.
murdered. But as that hotel went into its decline, I mean, it was kind of a rough place, and God knows what went on in some of those rooms.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody, anything, for any reason. Who knows? But
yeah.
yeah, that's one. So let me ask you this, because this is a question I often ask over on the Ghost Show. Is after you've had this experience now, all these years later, do you believe in ghosts?
I'd love to say no, but I have to say yes because I saw a ghost. I don't know how else to answer it. And that's
Mhm.
why I was angry. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my, I have to answer that yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had the experience.
Right. I don't
Okay.
believe in ghosts. I believe in Ghost.
Ghost, the one, and it wasn't
The
the
one.
ambassador, and the ambassador's gone now, so doesn't
Right.
exist anymore. All gone.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another infamous individual who we've covered on the show many a times in the past. We're talking with Adam Tex Davis from the podcast Slaycation. Go check that out. Press subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Of course, we're talking about Harvey Weinstein.
Oh boy.
You had an encounter with him. Before we get into the encounter, just give me some backstory. You're out there. You're in the industry prior to obviously all of the accusations that came against him and the charges and such. What was the vibe about Harvey? Did people was it kind of a hush hush thing? People kind of knew he was up to some dark shit, or was it just
Um,
what was the vibe?
so this was 19, my encounter, or, he came into my life in 1998, 99.
Hmm.
Um, he was known as a tyrant. He was known as a guy who, the rumors were like casting couch stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it all felt like, look, if a guy wants to say, hey, I've got a script and an actress, you want the part, you got to sleep with me. And then they make that decision. I mean, in a way, that's kind of the lore of Hollywood forever.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. So it didn't seem like there was anything, um, crossing the line of like legality or
The
like
line was so different back then, though. You know, I mean
the
that's
line was
yeah,
different.
yeah,
There was a moral line. I'm
yeah,
not talking the moral line. I'm talking like the criminal line.
yeah.
So it's like you thought he walked up to the criminal line, but didn't cross it,
Okay.
and he was gross. He was a disgusting human. Now here's the insight I got. Okay, so just to reframe, I had written a script,
Hmm.
and we went out with it, and it was a spring break comedy. Hilariously enough, the other movie was a spring break movie. I had written a spring break movie on my own because of a goofy thing that happened to me where I wound up on spring break with my family.
Okay.
Um, and it was like a teen sex family comedy thing.
Teen
Um,
sex family comedy. Sounds like a project Harvey would be interested in.
right? So the funny thing is, we had gone out with the script and nobody bought it. So I wrote a second script, and the spring break script that I wrote was what helped get me the other job.
Mhm.
But then, I started writing another script, which became Just Friends, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Mhm.
And just as I was finishing up the Just Friends script, I get a call. You're not going to believe this. Harvey Weinstein was on a plane and he heard some of his underlings laughing. And he said, "What are you laughing at?" And they said, "There's a script that's really, really funny." So he said, "Give it to me." And he grabbed it and he started reading it, and he was dying laughing. And like they thought he was having a heart attack because he doesn't laugh that much.
Mhm.
Apparently, yeah, he loved it. So when the plane landed, he was like, call this guy. I want to buy this thing."
Mhm.
So great. So I get this call from my manager, like, Harvey wants to buy your script. He wants to meet with you.
Mhm.
Oh shit. Okay. Now, again, I haven't sold anything yet. I'm barely in the business. But you know, so I've taken a lot of, general meetings and stuff, but this is a big one. And
Sure.
wait, he might buy my script. So it's my first, be my
And it
first sale.
and at that point in time for the audience just to understand, remember, nobody Harvey Weinstein isn't the Harvey Weinstein we know today. All of those allegations, all that was hush hush. So he was a mogul without a doubt in Hollywood at that time. So it's a big freaking deal at that moment to get that opportunity.
Yeah. Also, he was known as the guy who started the true Oscar campaigning.
Hmm.
Like the fact that he was able to get an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love when it was going up against a juggernaut. I think that had already happened. And so it's like, yes, this is the guy who gets Oscars for movies. He's known for his brilliant taste and the way he can take a project and shepherd it to becoming, Miramax was making a lot of money. So yeah, we knew. Yes, he's a tyrant and an ogre, but he's a force in Hollywood.
Hmm.
So I go to this meeting, and it's almost like like if I wrote the meeting, they would think I was just doing a caricature of him.
Hmm.
But there is no caricature. He is his own caricature.
Hmm.
He is exactly as advertised. Everybody in the office is totally terrified. Nobody will speak. everybody's eyes are like averted and down because they don't want to make eyes with him. It's like if you took a tiger and you let it off the leash and it was walking around the office, everybody would have the same exact reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they call me into the back room, and I go in there, and he's like, "Hey," and he sits me down, and he just immediately starts saying, "All right, so your movie's about a kid who goes on spring break with his parents, but let me tell you something. Kids hate their parents, so I want to lose the parents. Fuck the parents. Nobody wants to see their parents." And I was like, "Oh." But that's kind of where the comedy comes from, because like he's trying to, get with this girl and blah blah blah. But the parents is like, nah, nah, nah. Listen, let me tell you something. I got a friend, this guy Fabrizio, and he fucks everybody. Like these actors, they have sex with this one and that one, but my friend gets to have sex with everybody. He starts naming names and doing this whole thing, and I'm like, oh my god, is this really happening? And at one point, he stops and he turns, and his female vice president of production is sitting in the room, and he's like, "Am I making you uncomfortable?" And she just like, no, and she just keeps writing in the pad. And he goes, "Oh, anyway, I had sex with this one and this one and this one and this one." And then the thing that I gleaned from him is like he wanted to be like the big male stars that get like models and actresses that are throwing themselves at them.
Hmm.
And he names, like a Ben Affleck or a Leo DiCaprio. Like these guys are these good looking young actors, and all the girls want that.
Hmm.
He wishes he was that,
Okay.
but he's not that. He's Harvey Weinstein.
He's
So he's got
that.
to use, yeah, he's got to use treats like parts in movies
Hmm.
and, power and hey, you want to go to this or you want to do that? And so you got that sense like, oh, that's where it's coming from. He wishes he could just have his pick, but he can't. So he's got to use his power and he's got to use that kind of stuff. And I was just happy that I am a not so good looking guy sitting in the room and I'm not some pretty female with a script that he wanted, because I can't even imagine the pressure and whatever, like, I'll buy your script, but,
Yeah.
so yeah, he was absolutely disgusting. And the thing that kills me the most is, especially the way things have turned out, is at one point in the movie, there's a low point for the character, and his mom is being crazy and whatever. And he says, that one moment, I don't believe it. Like it's too unbelievable. It would never happen. And I go, not only would it happen, it did happen, and it happened to me.
Hmm.
And he goes, huh, I guess I lived a better life than you. So now I look at all the fun that he's going through,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know what? You probably don't say that phrase
Probably
anymore.
not.
Yeah.
Probably not. My
I
God.
feel like I'm doing a little better right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when you were going through that experience of that movie, I mean, was there anything that you had heard from anybody, on the cast or anything, where anything weird about Harvey, or did he
Well,
keep it?
that movie never got made.
Okay, okay,
He
but
shelved it, I heard, because he didn't get to buy the next one.
okay,
Because I finished Just Friends and
yeah,
New Line snatched it up, but they had a first look deal with my manager. But I heard through the grapevine that he was not happy that he didn't get first look at that movie, so he just kind of shelved the other movie. And there had been two attempts to try to get that movie from them, other companies,
uh huh,
and they asked for too much money and wouldn't release it.
yeah,
So I had never heard the allegation. Like I had never heard any of the allegations like that came out.
yeah, yeah,
Again, I never thought he was the guy who was going to cross the line. I
sure,
thought he was smarter than that.
hmm,
Uh, but this guy, a lot of these guys, they think they're so powerful that they're not going to get caught.
no, for the longest
And
time they were. I mean, for the longest time they were so shielded, and that's the scary part. And then suddenly it all shattered in the course of a year, which was
yeah,
shocking and but great at the same point. So those folks don't can't continue to do what they've been doing with their reigns of terror.
yeah, that's the saddest part. The saddest part is that either people weren't believed
Yeah.
or that people protected him,
Hmm.
because again, if I had any inkling, that any of that was going, like, I would be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to be associated with that. And
Yeah.
it wasn't a great experience. I only met him I met him the one time, and then I met him at a party years later. And again, nothing had come out yet or anything, but I had gone up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but you bought my very first script.
Mhm.
And I had sold a bunch by then at whatever. Um, and he said, oh, yeah, yeah, wait, I remember that. And then he remembered the title and he was like, yeah, that was really funny. I wish we could have done something with that, he said. I was like, well, one of us could have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, funny guy. And then he walked away.
Eh,
But, you
yeah.
know,
Would you rather run into, if you had to do it again, the ghost or Harvey Weinstein?
I'd rather run into Harvey Weinstein's ghost. No,
Well, yeah, well, that could happen soon. He just had open heart surgery, and as of our recording of this, he's still alive, unfortunately.
right,
But that may change by the time people see this.
right. Yeah, no, I'll take the ghost. I'll
Yeah.
take the ghost over him.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.